Stretch a little bit. Good. We're waving. Are we hugging yet? We're just waving, right? We're not hugging like the old days. So if you want to stand up and stretch, feel free to do so. There was a time. Zoomers, can you hear me okay? All right, thank you, and I apologize. And whoever said I can't hear you, thank you for doing that. I appreciate that very much. We are in a series, and this is part 4 of a 4-part series. This is the last one. We kicked the ball off, started the first quarter, and Denise was the second quarter, Debbie was the third quarter. And so we're coming up on the 2-minute warning. We're talking about the 4 noble truths. Have any of you been here for any of this? Any of the 4? Okay.
No.
Yeah, I think so. Is it not on? Can you hear me okay?
Yeah.
Let's see. I don't think it's on. Let's try again.
Is it green?
It's green now. Is that better?
Yes, oh yeah.
It's always good to have somebody who can hear in the audience.
Or not here.
Or not here. Thank you, Clyde. So, the 4 noble truths. First of all, the acknowledgement of suffering, that there is suffering. Secondly, that suffering comes about for lots of reasons, but one of the big ones is craving. I don't really have trouble with craving. You can look at my Amazon bill and tell. Somebody got that. Third, that Debbie shared so eloquently on last week was there's a way out. There's a way to the end of this. And then the fourth is the simply the truth of the path to the cessation of suffering. 3 questions: how do we get there? Number 2, how does it work? And number 3, is this actually possible? Now, the essence of the Buddhist teaching is these 4 noble truths. And if you look at the writings, if you look at the Dhamma writings, the Pali Canon as we call it, you'll see it running all through there. And it's basically a doctrine. This is what the Buddha discovered. But it's also a combination of doctrine and discipline. The doctrine being the truths themselves that create understanding, but the Noble Eightfold Path being a call for practice and discipline. Practicing and learning these 8 noble truths as to how they bring about suffering and how we can work these and practice to bring an elimination to some of that suffering. Now, Bhikkhu Bodhi, and I didn't bring my stack of books. I always bring books, not tonight. Bhikkhu Bodhi, they wrote a book called The Noble Eightfold Path. And it's one of the training manuals for this organization. And let me give a quick shout out to the website. There's a place on the website that lists resources. There are some tremendous resources on there. So if you're wondering what to read, you're wondering something that will possibly help you with your practice to learn more about insight meditation, please refer to that list. It's so valuable. But one of them on there is the Noble Eightfold Path by Bhikkhu Bodhi. And he says that while they both have value, the path is primary because the path brings the teaching to life. So we know there's suffering. We know a part of what brings it about. We know there's an end, and it's sort of like a medical model. The truth acknowledges the existence of suffering, which can basically be seen as the problem or the diagnosis. And another part of Bhikkhu Bodhi's teaching is is that some people jump on the path because they just get tired of this suffering. Gotta be a better way. There's gotta be a way out. What can I do to begin to eliminate this? So that's the diagnosis. The cause, which is often rooted in craving, serving as the cause of the illness. And another thing that goes with craving is attachment. You attached to anything? Okay, I'm gonna take that as a yes. Yeah, we are. I visited with a person today that is attached to old cars. And as soon as he opened up his garage and showed me his newest acquisition, a 78 Triumph Spitfire, I knew I was going to be there in a few more minutes. He talked about things I've never heard of before that was in a car. And showed me this, showed me that. And then he asked me, do you want to ride? Do you want to get in it? This thing is this far off the ground, the seats. I'm not worried about getting in. I'd still be there though, because I'm worried about getting out. Attachment, hobbies. But there's some basic life attachments. And some of our life attachments have to do with what Thich Nhat Hanh, when I say Thich Nhat Hanh, does that ring a bell with anybody? A tremendous writer, tremendous monk. He passed away just a few years ago. But he talks a lot about habit energy. And a lot of the Noble Eightfold Path has to do with us becoming aware of some of this habit energy. And how we just sort of go and go and go. And so when we think about that suffering can end, there is a path, and this is a treatment or prescription for achieving well-being and freedom from suffering. So we got the illness, we know what causes it, we know there's a way out, here's a prescription. We take the prescription, take it twice a day for 10 days, we'll be better. Sounds good? Hope you enjoyed the talk. I'm just kidding. It's not easy. And you have to really tackle this. And if you want to eliminate suffering, you have to want to eliminate suffering. There has to be an awareness of that. And I'll talk in just a few minutes about how we can raise that awareness. Closest comparison I can think of as far as walking the path is physical therapy. Are any of our physical therapists here tonight? I know we've got, there's one, and I know we've got one sitting over there in Florida. Gosh, they look comfortable. My goodness. Hi, Denise is there too. Physical therapy, I've done my share of it, and the instructions must be followed carefully, because if they're not followed carefully, you won't make the progress. And it's amazing how those little, what seemingly simple exercises will work, but they only work if you work it, if you practice it. In the Dhammapada, which is one of the summary writings of the Buddhist teachings, we read, "You yourselves must strive. The Buddhas are only teachers. The meditative ones who practice the path are released from the bonds of evil." So when we think about the path, there are 8 of them, and we're going to review them. Right view, right intention, right speech, right action, right livelihood, right effort, right mindfulness, and right concentration. Are you ready to recite them back? Some of you can't you? Because you've learned them, and that's wonderful. But when we look at walking this path, when we look at putting it together, it was the Spanish poet Antonio Machado who said, "We make the road by walking." We make the road by walking. And it's in that walking that we have turns in the path. Sometimes the path seems, oh my goodness, and other times it seems like we might be sailing a little bit. But we walk, and the first one, right view, is the forerunner, and it basically means that we want to understand the path correctly. And the path is not sequential. You know, we want to go A, B, C. Which one? I'm on number 5. I'm working my 5th step. And I say that with all due respect. We want to go in a way that we go here, 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 here. But once you get that right view, at that point you have the opportunity, and it's really necessary to let it all work together. Now, it's been a long time ago, but I remember driver's ed. Remember driver's ed? I couldn't be a driver's ed instructor. It would be really tough. But when you first learn to drive a car, you learn that things must work together. Now, it would be easier if you learned to start the car one day. The second day, we're going to learn how to accelerate. Now, the third day, we're going to learn about the brakes. The fourth day, we're going to work on the steering wheel and working on actually turning the steering wheel on the 5th day. And once you master each one of these, we'll work on them again and again and again. You got to learn how to do it all at once. And what's really fun is if you drive a car with a clutch. Remember those? We got any clutch drivers here? Any double clutchers? Yeah. And when you don't work the clutch just right, remember that horrible sound? What are you doing? I think you left the transmission back on Elm Street. Cooking is that way too. You don't cut vegetables one day, then wash them the next day, then boil them the next day, then simmer. You got to learn to put it together. And if you can learn to put it together with a recipe, you got a chance for a good result. That's coming from someone who's left out an ingredient or two more than once. So we learn right view to start, and in general what right view is helping us to see reality as it is. I talked about insight in the opening, the introduction. We want to learn to see things as they are. And seeing things as they are is understanding impermanence. Things arise, things pass away. 30 minutes arose in our meditation, and it passed away. Noises you hear when a plane flies over, arising, passing away. And sometimes impermanence is good. Think about a kernel of corn. If it didn't change, July 4th would not have corn on the cob. Unsatisfactoriness is another thing that we become aware of. General suffering. And the goal of right view is not to accumulate more knowledge, but to dissolve illusion. So in order to work this path, we have to know this path. And it starts with right view, which is from the wisdom division. There are 3 divisions. One is wisdom, the other is ethical conduct, and the third is concentration. And so when we think about right view, first of all, we're thinking about an understanding of the Four Noble Truths. You got to start somewhere with this general understanding of how things work. The nature of suffering, its cause, its cessation, and the path to liberation. The 3 characteristics of existence and right view, impermanence, suffering, and the fact that we ourselves are changing. Thank goodness, especially as I think about my kindergarten picture. Recognizing the 3 characteristics and then developing insight into karma, that there is cause and there is effect, and that our actions return. And you think, oh God, I hate that. But at the same time, some of our actions are good. And the returning of good is very valuable. So, right view. Right intention is the second one. Cultivating wholesome mental states, learning to let go of some of those desires and attachments, and developing intentions of goodwill, not only toward others, to yourselves. And we'll pause here for a commercial. Next Saturday, there's an all-day retreat that I'm having the privilege of leading on cultivating loving kindness. And we're going to be talking a whole lot about kindness to ourselves, extending loving kindness to ourselves, how we think about ourselves, how we look at ourselves, kindness to others, kindness to those that we know, and loving kindness maybe to those that we don't know, kindness to those we like, and then maybe kindness to those that we wouldn't really want to spend a 3-hour dinner with. Or we don't think we would. But this attitude, this intention, and how we think about others, how we think about ourselves. The Buddha in the Manajja Nikaya wrote, whatever one frequently thinks and ponders upon, that will become the inclination of their mind. And one good example is when you get cut off in traffic. Ever got cut off in traffic? It happened to me. Where does your mind go? That cut me off. This guy's crazy. What's going on? Maybe his wife's having a baby and he's trying to get to the hospital. Maybe he's got chest pains that he's never experienced before and he's just praying as hard as he can that he'll make it there. Maybe there's a bee in the car. What I'm saying is there are options here. And I'll get to meditation in a minute, but learning to pause, learning to stop like we did, to stop our mind a little bit, gives us an opportunity to consider that maybe it's not what we first thought it was. Right action, these are basic refraining from killing, stealing, practicing sexual morality, engaging in actions that promote kindness and integrity. Right livelihood, earning a living in a way that is ethical and does not cause harm. And I know everybody's got different livelihoods. I like what the Dalai Lama said, choose a livelihood that does not bring harm to others. Your work should bring benefit, peace, and happiness to yourself and others. Mental discipline, right effort, a conscious effort to be positive, think positive thoughts, and abandon unwholesome ones. And encouraging the growth of mindfulness and compassion, and resisting mental wandering, distraction. Now, learn a new word, a new Sanskrit word. I'm going to call it Viksepa, V-I-K-S-E-P-A. And it's often translated as distraction or mental wandering. But basically, it describes the mind's tendency to be drawn to others or thoughts that prevent it from remaining focused on a virtuous object. Now, I know every one of you has maintained complete concentration during this talk. Nobody's mind has wandered whatsoever. It's okay, mine has too. It's not simply about having thoughts, it's about the mind being drawn away from the present moment. And if you want to really check yourself on this, just practice walking from one room to another to get something, and then walking back and see if you can do it without getting distracted. Some of you would fail because I like the way you smile. I just love honest people. Don't you just love honest people? Pema Chodron, a Bikini Buddhist monk, wrote that effort is not about forcing, but about allowing. It's the effort to stay present with whatever arises with courage and compassion. You know, there was this talk for a while about multitasking. I need to learn to multitask. What we need to learn right now is the one task. Just to stay perfectly focused and not let it run away. Speaking of running away, the clock's running. I'm going to speed up just a little bit. Right mindfulness, being fully aware, living in the present moment, being somewhere on purpose. And then right concentration. And this is where meditation comes from, training the mind to reach states of concentration that you can cultivate and focus a clear mind free from distractions. You can be like a flame in a windless place. You just keep burning. You just keep going. John Child wrote, the mind is like a glass of muddy water. The more we stir it, the murkier it becomes, but if we allow it to settle, it naturally becomes clear. And this is right concentration, not forcing, not suppressing, but letting go until clarity arises on its own. How do we do this in daily life? Number one, mindful breathing, single tasking, deep listening. It's one thing that I really had to learn as a grief counselor, to stay in the room, to stay focused, to keep listening. Walking meditation, to focus on each step with awareness. And then loving kindness meditation, concentrating on feeling and goodwill toward others. I could go on and on, but I'm going to stop here, and I just want to remind you again, having the doctrine is very important, but it's all about discipline. It's all about walking the path. Pablo Casals was a cellist. Anybody heard of Pablo Casals, a cellist? Well, when he turned 91, they asked him, well, Master, what do you do all day? And he described his day a little bit. But in the course of his day at age 91, he said he still practices 3 to 5 hours a day. To which the reporter was absolutely astonished. He said, you're one of the greatest in the world. Why do you practice 3 to 5 hours a day? And he said, I'm beginning to see a little improvement. Practice, and you'll see a little improvement.